Week 9 NBA Cup Finals week, so we got a day off in this one, but otherwise everything is scheduled. We don't have to wait for any results to come in to actually know what's happening next. That is a weird small thing to be thankful for, but that's what we got. Anyway, hi everybody, welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Week 9 preview show. I'm Dan Vespris. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Vespris. You can also hit the like and subscribe button as you're settling in, as we continue to slowly churn out new subscribers here on the channel. I heart you guys for all of that. This show is brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. We are also a proud member of the Believe network of podcasts, and we have two things to do on today's program. First thing is the injury report. We're going to go through basically the first 200 players ranked in fantasy basketball, let you know what everything means there, guys that are coming back, who is, who isn't, start, sit. There's a little bit of that. I don't know how many of you guys are playing weekly leagues anymore. Not many. I know that, like, I said this on a previous show. Back at the old place, we did kind of lean into the who plays in weekly leagues thing, which, like, some of the really high stakes leagues are weekly, which that's something. For most of us, we can at least adjust our lineups on a day-to-day. So in any event, let's just go through the injury report. We'll take a look at stuff. Tyrese Maxey got ruled out for the Sunday game. We're recording this show, of course, midday on Sunday, so we won't have all the information for Monday. But we have the schedule at least, and Philly doesn't play again until the 19th and 20th. That's Friday, Saturday this coming week, a back-to-back. They've got 4 days off after this game on Sunday, so I think I would probably play Maxey since it's an illness. They're bad illnesses. Flus can knock people out for a week and a half, whatever, but I'm going to assume he'll be back by that Friday, Saturday back-to-back. So Maxey is a start. Austin Reeves is set to be reevaluated kind of towards the middle end of this week, so I would probably keep him out. Anthony Edwards is an interesting one. He also got ruled out due to his foot issue on Sunday. And again, like, not super early. He got ruled out in the morning of the ball game. So you're doing a little bit of tea leaf reading to some degree, but Minnesota does have a 3-game week. They go Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I think I'm going to play Anthony Edwards and just hope that him being day-to-day, that he's back in by at least 2 of those 3 ball games. Because again, if you get 2 out of Ant this week, that's like getting like 2.5 to 3 out of an injured player on a typical week, because of how few games there are. There's more this week than there were last week. Make no mistake. This is a less disgusting week from a games played standpoint, but it's still really low. It's still like a solid 20% lower than most other weeks. So you do want to maximize games, and it's more important than usual. We'll just keep scrolling names here. That's what we do, as the internet allows. Porzingis, honest to goodness, at this point, I don't even know how you roster him in a head-to-head situation. Atlanta has a 3-game week, but there's no sign of him coming back. He's dealing with this same, autoimmune stuff. What did he play? How many games did he get into before he went back out again? 1. Literally 1 game. Missed 4, played 1. He's missed 2. He could miss another 3. I'm not playing Porzingis. Honestly, at this point, if you're in a head-to-head league, I don't even know how you roster him. Yikes. Drew Holiday's a no until we see him actually get back out there. Jalen Suggs is a weird one. He left the Orlando, New York game, the NBA Cup semis on Saturday in a wheelchair, although someone was saying that it's a really long walk, so they just didn't want to put any extra pressure on it. I would assume that means he's out for a week, and it's a 2-game week for Orlando anyway, so I'm benching Suggs. He's having a great year, by the way. Franz and Giannis, no. Edey, no. Alex Sarr, do we get anything later on him? No, just a he's out. Sometimes I like to check these to see if I missed something, because I was like, I don't think I heard anything. Remember when they said he was just going to miss the back-to-back at the beginning of week 7, and we're now at the end of week 8, and he's still being ruled out multiple hours in advance? I don't see how you play him and put him in your lineup until you actually see him get out on a court. The latest on... Wait, Nickeil Alexander-Walker has a tag? I didn't hear anything, man. Oh, questionable. All right, so we'll get more on Nickeil Alexander-Walker prior to this Sunday game. There's stuff that I missed too. Then they're off for 3 days. I think the fact that he's questionable for this one means you're probably going to get at least 2 out of him this coming week. They play Thursday, Friday, Sunday in week 9. So I would probably start him. Evan Mobley is out for 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain. So he's a bench. That's a big piece of news that came out from yesterday. Donovan Klingon's a weird one because, he keeps getting listed as questionable and he keeps not playing. He's now missed 3 in a row. I'd be surprised if they brought him back before he was fully ready. So probably it'll be 4 in a row. I guess we won't know. But then the fact that it seems like he's close makes me think that after 3 days off, he should play. That said, it's a 2-game week. So if you're in a weekly league, you bench him. If you're in a head-to-head league, you just at that point, you just pray he's back. What do you don't have to make your call early. Devin Booker sounds like he's ready to go. I think we're going to see him for this Lakers game on Monday, which is tomorrow for me right now. No, that's today. Excuse me. That's right. The Eastern Conference game got pushed to Monday. So we'll know more by later today. If he sits out the Lakers game and you're staring down the barrel of a 2-gamer, I'd still play him because I think he'll be back for both games this coming week. So Booker's probably about ready to go. Got back from that groin thing pretty quick, didn't he? LaMelo Ball, I don't know how you ever play him. He's a train wreck. Emmanuel Quickley only has an injured tag because he's been out for so long, but Toronto's only played basically the one game. They've had one game in an 8-day span. So it's not like he's actually injured. Don't be confused by the injured tag on Emmanuel Quickley. He had a flu bug, and they had one game over 8 days. So presumably he'll be fine for their next one. I think Quickley should be okay. Kelly Oubre, is this a sign that he's getting closer? No, just another. I hate when it's like you got the blue tag here on Yahoo, and you're like, oh, did something new come out? No, it's just the same stuff we already knew from everything we've been doing for years and years and years. He's just out. So, nope. Jared Allen is probable, by the way. He's back. So, we got Jared Allen. Hey! That's a start. He'll be playing in this game on Sunday. It's a 2-game week, so not sure that he's a guy you necessarily need to start in a 2-game week. Again, it's a different kind of 2-game week where, it's not like everybody else has 3 or 4. Most of the NBA is 2 or 3. The odd ducks this coming week are 4, and we'll get to the streaming chart in just a little bit. Let's get through the last of this stuff. Sam Merrill is an interesting one. He's still out. When he comes back, he might have a little bit of an avenue. We'll reassess that in a little bit. What else we got? RJ Barrett, Daniel Gafford. No, we're not playing those guys. Andrew Nembhard is questionable for Indiana for their game on Sunday. It's one of those things where you probably have to do a little bit of mirroring because they're off for 3 days and it's only a 2-game week for the Pacers. So if Nembhard doesn't play on Sunday, I don't think I'd play him. Tari Eason sounds like he might be back for Houston, but if you're in a weekly league, you probably don't do much with him there. Head-to-head, you should pick him up because Eason got off to a really slow start this season. A lot of his numbers are not back to where you'd expect they'd be from that per-minute standpoint. He's a guy that should move up towards that top 85 range as he kind of... There needs to be a leveling of stats, and the steals is the one that hasn't really leveled off. What's the latest on Dylan Brooks? Questionable with an Achilles thing. Yeah, I mean, mirror, same kind of thing. If he doesn't play against the Lakers, I wouldn't play him in a 2-game week. He simply hasn't been good enough lately. Ayo Dosunmu, now we're in a place where, who cares? Joel Embiid, it's a back-to-back this coming week, so the most you're gonna get is 1. So that's probably a no from a weekly standpoint. How much farther do we need to go? Not that much farther. Time Lord needs a play if he plays, but Klingon doesn't. Derek Jones, no. AJ Green, I still want to see what the heck he's going to be when he comes back. So, nah. Not interested in these guys. We're deep into the dregs at this point. Zion's not close. We're just scrolling now. Now I'm just having fun with scrolling. Fun with scrolling here. Da-da-da-da-da-da. If Colin Sexton happens to get his way back before LaMelo Ball, he's still out, by the way, then he could be useful. But hey, you never know. All right, I think that's probably good on the injury board. Okay, streaming calendar's coming up in just a sec. First things first, it's promo. Please hit that like button. Do it now. And subscribe. Do that now also. And find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. But also, hey, thanks to all of you guys that have checked out our partners at FanDuel. And thank you to all of you that have signed up for a 99-cent membership. There are more of you out there that have 99 cents. That's how we're going to get to it. I've caught up, by the way. Every comment that you 99 centers have posted on YouTube, I've responded to. Every dang one of them. That I can keep up with because that's just a few a day, as opposed to if I looked at every comment, which is like 50 to 100 a day, I'd lose my mind. I did that last year because I was like, for 1 year, I'm going to respond to every single comment. And now I can't anymore. So please talk amongst yourselves. But again, if you guys have 99 cents, it really does actually go a long way towards getting us towards that goal of basically doing this as my career forever. And without pulling back the curtain too much, like when I was back at the old spot and you have this sort of monthly thing you can fall back on, then you're not worried about 99 cents and 9 here and there. But now we're building this thing ourselves. So the 99 cents, it matters. So thank you in advance to those who signed up for a YouTube membership. I still got to get you the subscriber pod with my son. I think it's going to be hilarious when it actually comes together. And then every day I'm like, that seems like a good day for it. Then we end up with like 9 other family things that need to happen. So soon enough, although that one is really the bonus. The main thing is you get my responses on stuff and you're fueling this locomotive that I don't plan on slowing down ever. Okay. Google Sheet. Let's pull this up on the screen. You guys can do this along with us on the show. This is in the show description, has been since day one. I really hope you guys are taking advantage of the fact that this is a thing that I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours putting together, and it's just free to all of you guys. Here is week 9. It's a little hard for you guys to see, so we'll zoom in a little bit. I don't want to zoom in too far because then I can't see what the hell I'm looking at. So maybe about this far. YouTubers, can you see that? I feel like you can. I can see it when I'm looking at what's going out to you right now. Traditional pod listeners, iTunes, Spotify, you guys should navigate into the show description and pull up the Google Sheet. So that way you guys can at least sort of like scroll along with it, or you can go back and look after the fact. Like if you're in traffic, obviously I don't want you reading a giant schedule grid. But here's the thing. This week, much like last week, is instead, normally we isolate the bad schedules and we try to move away from them. NBA Cup weeks, because they're not combined into one big one, we flip it. We isolate the good schedules and figure out how to get to those, as opposed to the opposite, which is what we do most weeks, where most teams have 3 games or 4 games. So if you have one of the couple of teams that has 2, you're trying to figure out how to get away from that. Right now, because most teams have 2 or 3 games, if you can get to a 4-gamer, and there are a couple of them, that's actually how you gain the big advantage. So just a quick scroll will let you know that Brooklyn, Charlotte, Cleveland, Golden State, Indiana, how we have 5? The Lakers, the Bucks, the Pelicans, the Thunder, the Magic, that's 10. Philly, the Suns, the Blazers, all of those teams, that was 13, have 2 games this week. So, right out of the chute, almost half of the NBA has a 2-game week. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 3 teams have a 4-game week. Thus, you guys can do the math, 14 teams have a 3-game week. On this Google Sheet, all the 3-game weeks are color-coded in black. The 2-game weeks are color-coded in red because, red! And the 4-game weeks are color-coded in green because, delicious green. So if you have a 3-game week, a player on your team is a 3-gamer, you're pretty much just good to go. Like, there's no reason to do much there. Even if you have a 3-game week, for example, like a San Antonio, or honestly, Sacramento might be a better example of this. They play Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. You basically can't backload a 3-game week any more than that. And you're like, well, Dan, they don't play the first 3 days this week. Should I do something with that? The answer is no, not really. Because whatever you do with that, you're going to end up on a team. Like, if you're looking for a team that plays twice the first 3 days this week, there's only one. It's Memphis. The Grizzlies play Monday and Wednesday, which is easily the best schedule of anybody to start the week. But after that, they only play one time over the final 4 days. When we just talked about Sacramento, they play 3 times over that stretch. So yeah, if you wanted to, you could pivot off of a 3-game week to the Grizzlies and then back to a different 3-game week. But now you've started with a 3-game week. You've moved to a team with a 3-game week, and you've moved back to a team with a 3-game week. Yes, the way you line it up works better. So you go from a 3-game roster slot to a 5-game roster slot, but it took you 2 moves to add 2 games to your weekly ledger. You know my goal. My goal is to use every move. Well, at this part of the season, some of your moves should be saved for guys you think are going to have rest of season appeal, or if you're like picking up an injured guy that got dropped by somebody. But if you're streaming, my goal, the old man squad streaming tenet number 1, is try to add 2 games to your weekly ledger per move you make. It's never going to work. That's the goal. It's a lofty goal. And you can do it for 1 move. Sometimes, like, the length of the stream obviously makes it easier and easier. If you're streaming a particular team over like 9 days, it's much easier to take a team that has 4 games over 9 days and find another team that has 6 games over 9 days. As opposed to, like, if you're doing the very short one, you could make it also a team that's off for 2 to a team that has a back-to-back. But then over the length of that week, you might not actually be gaining any games, because that's the 2 things that are kind of butting heads. How many games are you getting out of that roster slot for the entirety of the week? So the obvious conclusion here is try to find a team that has a 2-game week, that does not play early in the week, and move to a team that has a 4-game week. That's the easiest. Oh, this is how I get 2 extra games played with 1 roster move. Simple. Most of the 2-game weeks, and again, there's 13 of them, so it's not all of them, but a lot of the 2-game teams don't play early in the week. The only ones that do are Cleveland is a 2-game week that goes on Wednesday. Might be it. I think that's it. It's just Cleveland. The rest of them are all off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so that makes it easy enough to eliminate Cleveland from this board. But here's the thing, like, there are also kind of gradations among the rest of those teams. Brooklyn plays Thursday, which might be an overload day. That's a 12-gamer. And Sunday. So they have a 1-game over 6 day span to start the week. Charlotte, conversely, they go Thursday, Saturday. Okay, so it's a little easier to hang on to one of those teams because you could pivot off on a Sunday and still turn it into a 3-game week. Brooklyn, like, if you wait, you're getting a 2-game week. Yeah, that's just where you're at right now. Most of the 2-game teams, it seems like, are Thursday, Saturday, because those are the heavier traffic days this week. So then a lot of it falls into it. But like Philly is Friday, Saturday. They have a back-to-back, which wipes out Joel Embiid. And like we just talked about, Brooklyn has Thursday, Sunday, which I guess to some degree maybe is a little bit better because Sunday's a 6-gamer, but like, All right, so you're on one of these 2-game weeks. Who is droppable? Well, because there are only 40, 7, 19, 24, 30, 40 games total this week, where normally high 40s is where you're looking, even into the low 50s. So we're down somewhere from 20 to 30% in total games this week. You want to stream more because every extra game you're getting helps more than usual. Because if you have 44 games and your opponent has 40, you have a 10% edge over them, as opposed to, again, like if your opponent had 51 games and you have 55, it's not a 10% edge. It's more like a little under 8% edge. You're like, Dan, that doesn't sound like very much. Believe me, it is. 10% is a big jump. 700 points wins your week. You have 770. That's a big jump. 170 rebounds wins your week. You get it at 187. It's a big jump. Anyway, don't worry about that too much. Like, just think 10%. The main point we're trying to make here is, while it is easy to feel like you need to stream a ton because the games played number is low, your options are wider. Like, there's two things that are kind of working against one another. It feels like you need to stream more, and honestly, you kind of do. And you have more guys that you could probably drop because so many teams have only 2 games. So you have to kind of reel it in a little bit. Part of a winning strategy this week, I'm not saying you should throw this week, because it's also a week where if you have a games played edge, you can win 7-2 or 8-1 on a normal circumstance. If you were just in a head-to-head battle, it might be basically a tie. By the way, Andrew Nemhard just got ruled in for Indiana, so that makes him a little bit of an easier decision this coming week. So you have to dial yourself back. You have to find a way to only stream a couple of guys, because it's actually a really easy time to stream because there's so many droppable players. If you have a streamer on Brooklyn or Charlotte or Cleveland or Golden State or Indiana, there's 13 teams I just mentioned that have a 2-game week. So anybody that's fringe level on 13 teams this week is potentially droppable. I'll say this. If your team is in like 7th place, 6th place, 7th place in your league, this is probably a great time for you to try to hard charge games played and try to pick up ground really quick. Because odds are some team, even the good teams, are going to have a weird games disadvantage on one of these 2 weeks. And you might be playing against them. This might be your chance to play the team that's right in front of you in the rankings and just try to deliver a haymaker, even if you drop a guy that normally you'd hang on to. The only problem is with only 3 teams that have a 4-game week. So if you had 4 players you wanted to stream this week, you might not have 4 players worth picking up. You got plenty of guys you can drop, but Miami, Houston, and Toronto, how many guys are you actually going to play on those teams? Are you going to stream Jamal Shed for 4 games? Is that really that much better, if at all, than streaming, say, a better stream level guy, a Spur or whatever, in a 3-game week? Is that better? Grizzlies have a bunch of streamers, and they start the week so nicely. Is it better to go that direction? Like, how many streamers does Miami have right now that they're healthy? Not many. Jaime Jaquez Jr.? What about Houston? Not many. Especially if Tari Eason comes back. Even fewer. So the options on who you can pick up, unfortunately, are a little bit limited. You can just go to the board and look at it. Like, who's a stream level guy on the Rockets? Nobody. Literally nobody. Who's a stream level guy on Miami? We already said it. It's Jaime Jaquez. The 6 guys ranked ahead of him in fantasy right now are pretty much all on rosters. Hero, Powell, Adebayo, Ware, Wiggins, and Davion Mitchell. Those guys are all rostered. Is Toronto your best bet with Sandro Mamukelashvili or Jamal Shed? That's it. That's the only options you've got. So you might want to stream a crap load this week, and you might have plenty of guys that you're totally willing to dump, but there probably aren't guys that you can pick up. So what do you do instead? Well, instead of what we just talked about, which is maybe you have 4 stream level guys, but there aren't 4, which would be really sweet because you could add 8 games played, but there aren't 4 guys out there on those 3 teams that are worth adding. So unless you can get the one or two pretty good stream level guys from Houston, Miami, and Toronto, and you're probably going to be competing with 11 other teams to get them at 12:01 a.m. here tonight, which, heaven help you, I can't stay up that late anymore. You might be better off going to Memphis for the first 3 days this week, because the Grizzlies do have streamers. Cam Spencer is stream level lately. Cedric Coward's been coming on. Jock Landale is stream level. Even Jalen Wells is sort of borderline stream level. Memphis has plenty of options. And then maybe you do that with two guys. And then on Thursday, you look at the host of teams. Now you've got like half the league that has 3 games the rest of the way. Atlanta, well, Houston, who we already talked about, but bleh, and Miami. Grumble, grumble, grumble. But New York gets added to the mix. Sacramento gets added to the mix. San Antonio, Washington. You're adding, another 5 or 6 teams that you can pluck from for those final 4 days. And hell, maybe you don't even need the extra player on Thursday. Maybe you have a Memphis Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is overloaded. So maybe you're just looking at trying to get a couple games out of the rest of the week after that. So to me, that actually probably makes a little bit more sense just because the options are a little better, even if it's simpler to just go from a 2-game week to a 4-game week. Under normal circumstance, I'd be like, yeah, do that because you're going to gain 2 games played. But again, there's like maybe 2 guys that are even remotely close to stream level. And yes, getting the game advantage, the 4-game week versus the 3-game week, is a big deal. But you probably don't actually want to drop 4 guys from your team. That's asking a lot. If you have a 13-player roster, you probably have more than 9 guys that you actually want to hold on to longer than this week. So look at just maybe streaming your last 2. Go to Memphis Monday through Wednesday. You can get a nice start to your week with games played there. Pivot off of one of those Grizzlies on Thursday, perhaps. You could wait and pivot off the other one on Sunday if you wanted to. Or pivot off both on Thursday. I don't care, but then you're out of moves for the week. But again, if you can add those games played, if you can turn some 2-game weeks into 5-game weeks, you go 4 moves. You use all 4 of your moves. You turn 4 games into 10. That's pretty good. You're at a 1.5 moves added per move made. That's cool. It's not 2. Our goal is 2, but the players aren't good enough to get to that goal. But it's not 1, because 1, that's just not enough. You got to use your moves more effectively than your opponent. If they're gaining 4 games played with their 4 moves and you're gaining 6, you streamed better and you're getting more. And that's about that. The only other thing that you might want to think about is that there are a bunch of teams that actually start next week with a back-to-back. None of those teams, obviously, plays on Sunday. So if you have a big edge, there's an opportunity to maybe get off to a quick start in week 10, because week 10 is one of the most front-loaded weeks of the entire season, because Christmas Eve, the 24th, everybody's off. So everybody's loaded up on Tuesday. Almost the entire league plays Tuesday. A lot of teams play on Monday as well. And then, some come back on Thursday, on Christmas Day. That's the sort of like showcase day. And then, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is more normal again. But you can get off to a really quick start next week, understanding that Tuesday, everybody's playing. So not everybody, but almost everybody. So that's your overload day. So you don't need to add more games on Tuesday. But if you can add games on Monday at the end of this week, that's a way to get off. That's the way to get your week 10 off to a quick start. Thanks for watching, everybody. This was week 9's preview show. The NBA Cup concludes. Finally, we can get back to actually having full NBA schedules after Tuesday. Well, Christmas Eve is also mixed in there. But yeah, I don't know, a one-off I can handle. It's this 3 times in a week and a half and not knowing who's going to play when. That's annoying. NBA Cup games are fun. They are. The guys are definitely playing harder. But also, it sucks for fantasy basketball. Ah, well. Rate, subscribe. Shout out once again to FanDuel. If you've got 99 cents, please consider throwing it my way as we keep growing Old Man Squad. I'll see you guys on social at Dan Bespris. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Good luck here on Monday. Let's try to stream together another win on a low tide week. Adios.